And that's so funny you mentioned that, because I have a reservation for the Cybertruck, and I would have never in a million years thought I would ever own a pickup truck. But
exactly,
I'm part of that 1/3 to 50%. And so when you have those, I'm curious, is that a recurring theme when you talk to people? Like, do you come across like potential first time pickup buyers? Okay, tons. Tell me more about that.
So I did a little video. I don't know why. I haven't been doing videos very consistently over the last little bit because of snow and COVID and other stuff. But the last video I did was about why I think the Cybertruck will be the number one selling pickup truck. And the reason is because it's stealing share. So for instance, one group of people that are really going to like the Cybertruck are people that have wanted a pickup truck before, but have been intimidated by the size of the pickup truck. Because if you've ever been have you driven a pickup truck before, Farzad?
No, actually, yeah, I did for like a day because we were moving stuff, but it was a little difficult to drive. But I think you just got to get used to it. But I can see how it can be intimidating.
Correct. It's intimidating. Intimidating. The trucks are intimidating because they're bigger, and so getting the steering right. And where this is especially problematic is when you're parking. So you notice it most when you're in a parking lot and you're trying to get in, a specific area. Well, the Cybertruck is going to have four-wheel steering and torque vectoring. It's going to be the tightest turning truck that exists. Most people don't understand what a big deal that is. But this will make the Cybertruck will steer as if you're driving a car. You'll feel like you're driving a car. You'll be able to put it in places easier, more intuitively than you can with a regular pickup truck. And when people test drive it, they'll be like, it's a big pickup truck, but I can drive it. It's like an SUV. It drives like an SUV. So that's one group of people that are really going to want this. The other group of people are off-road, people that do off-roading. My background here is my Tacoma. I go off-roading with it on a regular basis. I take it into remote areas, and there have not been any good full size. So the Ford Raptor is an off-road pickup truck. It's very expensive, $85,000. But what people don't realize about the Raptor is that in order for it to have the really compliant suspension that makes it good off-road, it dramatically reduces your payload and towing capacity. So people that want a truck that want to also take it off-road, it's frustrating because they have to make all these trade-offs they want a full-size truck, but they want to take it off-road, but they don't want to give up all the payload and towing capacity by putting a really good off-road suspension on it. Well, the Cybertruck, actually, because of its adaptive air suspension, will make it a very, very capable off-road vehicle, but it's got a payload capacity that's on par with an F-250, which is a 3/4 ton. That's a work truck. 3,500 pounds payload capacity is massive for a vehicle that can go off-road. The only other vehicle that has a payload capacity of 3,500 pounds that can go off-road, that's a full-size vehicle, is a Humvee. That's it.
Wow.
So
go ahead. Sorry.
So there's all these little groups of people. Each group might only be 25,000 buyers, 50,000 buyers a year. But you start pulling a group here, a group here, a group here. I do snow removal. I live in the snow belt, ice belt more than the snow belt. Mm-hmm. Corrosion's a big deal with our trucks. Oftentimes our trucks corrode out before they break down mechanically. And so people like me that live in the north, the Midwest, the north, the Northeast, they're loving the fact that you have this stainless steel exoskeleton that's not going to corrode out. So there's all these little things about the Cybertruck that are so brilliant that people don't understand that are just going to make it very desirable for both people that own trucks now, but a lot of people that have owned other vehicles and they make compromises, and they're very excited to have a truck now that can do all the different things. So it can be a better suburban vehicle than an SUV. It can be a better off-road vehicle than a Raptor. It'll last a long time because it doesn't corrode. Not to mention the operating costs. The torque will make it have more pulling capacity than a diesel. So it's going to have as much torque as a diesel pickup truck, which for people that aren't in the truck world, that doesn't mean anything, but diesel trucks have much more torque, making it much better for towing. So the Cybertruck will be an exceptional towing vehicle, especially that's where in-town towing, people think about long-range towing because most people think about campers and boats and stuff like that. But a lot of towing is in town. Commercial towing is in-town towing. So what you want is something that has a lot of torque, but you don't need 300 miles of range with your tow vehicle. You only need 120, 140, 160. And that's great because every day the truck comes back to the shop. So now you have something that can tow as good as a diesel, and it's a fraction of the cost to operate. There's all these little categories that the Cybertruck is actually going to attack that people don't understand.
That's really interesting. So it almost sounds like there is so I know nothing about the how trucks are sub-segmented and everything. That's why I wanted to talk to you so bad. But it sounds like not all trucks are created equal, right? You have this special, each truck sub-segment is specialized in a certain thing, be it towing, being able to carry a lot of people with a big cab, off-roading. Yep. You have a bunch of different specialized use cases for a truck where it sounds like the Cybertruck could potentially have its biggest advantage is that it seems to bring all of these
Correct.
Together under one roof.
It's much more of a Swiss Army knife of a vehicle than most trucks. Correct.
Got it. And you don't think that's well understood?
Not at all. Well, it's well understood by the people making reservations.
Okay.
So people think the reservation count is some kind of a gimmick or a game. It's not. It's people that use vehicles for different reasons, and they look at the Cybertruck for a lot of reasons and say, this ticks the box. And also the status component. Trucks are a status thing, especially in truckland. And some people are like, oh, the Cybertruck is ugly and no one's going to want it. Well, a lot of people think that Cybertruck looks badass. It looks cool. It looks tough. It looks futuristic. And so it's also kind of, people are going to want to own it for the bling factor. If you're now in Austin, so I'm sure you've seen some trucks that are blinged out.
Oh my God.
Exactly.
Some of them are taller than my house.
Yes. And so there's a bling factor in that world. People spend more money on aftermarket upgrades of trucks by far than any other vehicle. There's whole businesses, you can go into any market like Austin or Kansas City, and there's dozens of little shops that their business is based on just doing truck aftermarket upgrades. So the amount of people will spend money on trucks like they won't on other vehicles. There's a different attitude in truck owners in general about how much you'll spend and what the truck represents as part of kind of your identity than regular vehicles.
Yeah. That was a big eye opener for me when I moved to Austin. It seems like more than every other car, it seems like it's a pickup truck, and they're all like different shapes and sizes. Yep. It was so interesting to see. And what's even more interesting is, so my next door neighbor, he fits that sort of thing you said, where he has a truck, but he's customized so many different things about it. I think he's got new shocks, new headers, like a bunch of different stuff in it. And he's constantly talking about it. He's like, I'm looking to do this. And we had another neighbor. It's
his life.
It's a big part of, he's proud.
It's a hobby. It's a hobby. It's not his life, but it's a hobby.
Yeah. He's very proud of it. And I think it's man, if I get the brand wrong, and if he listens to this, I feel like he might show up at my house and like knocking my teeth. I think he has a Chevy. Pretty sure he has a Chevy. But it's so interesting. Like it sounds like Tesla, because one of my concerns with the Cybertruck initially was like, it doesn't seem like Tesla, like I'm hoping they did their homework, right? Because of all the things I've heard, like, truck culture, people are for GM, Ram, die hard. You're not going to be able to enter the market. But it does sound like Tesla has really done their homework on what really is the truck market. What really are we getting ourselves into? And
I think what they did is they said, we're not going to specifically try and compete against Ford, Chevy, and Ram. I think they said, we're going to go out, we're going to create a vehicle that is tougher, and has better performance metrics, is going to be lower cost to operate. Yeah. But we're going to do it in a design that we think will be attractive to a broad group of people. Yes, some truck people, but also a lot of new truck candidates. So in my mind, I think it's brilliant because they're not going to try and take Ford on. They're not going to try and take GM on. They're not going to try and take Ram on their own thing. They're going to compete on Tesla's terms. And to me, that's why the design is so brilliant, because it's so distinctive, for lack of another word, but it's so distinctive that you're saying we're not trying to compete with these guys on their terms according to their model. And I just think that I think that the reservation count stands. It's a testament to, and it keeps growing, and the reservations keeps growing. And Elon has said multiple times he thinks it could be their most successful vehicle ever. And the more I came to understand the Cybertruck, the more I felt extremely strong that it was gonna become the number one truck, at least in the US. Yeah.
Hearing you talk about it really drives home the point of what are the game-changing features about it. The combination of the different specialties is something I never knew that's what one of the main attractions was for the car, but it makes a lot of sense. I saw a video. You're familiar with Sandy Monroe, right? Mm-hmm. And his channel, he talked about how his own sort of what he's excited for is taking the thing off road because he likes going, off road and everything. I'm like, okay, cool. So that's one person that's like looking to use that vehicle for a specific thing. And then I would hear other people talk about, I'm excited to add it to my fleet, have a business where I can use these vehicles for the fleet. But for some reason, it didn't click in my head that this is all one car. It's all one vehicle.
And what you didn't understand necessarily is that historically, those are very different vehicles. So the little
That's
vehicle
exactly
in
right.
the background there, that Tacoma, the reason I bought that, so I had an F-250, a 3/4 ton of work truck before I bought this. And I really wanted something that could go off-roading. And the problem with this is that now I have a very limited payload. Yeah. It's very small. It's a great off-road vehicle, but I've had to make a bunch of trade-offs in order to get the off-road truck I wanted. I had to make a bunch of trade-offs on the other side. The beauty of the Cybertruck is I don't have to make any trade-offs. I get to have a very high capacity, high towing capacity, high payload capacity, large truck that will be it'll be as good as my Tacoma off-road, except in some space limited situations. It'll be better because it'll have more ground clearance, better torque vectoring on the wheels, 4-wheel steering.
Yeah.
It's going to have astonishing off-road capabilities.
Yeah. Now I will always wonder, why do people have multiple pickup trucks in their driveway? Now I think I understand. Well, it's because,
I have this one. My wife has a full-size one. Yeah. So we're a pickup truck family. Yeah. But yes, that's why, because they
different use cases,
different purposes.
Yeah. Okay. So let's think about this then. So this is basically you have a jack of all trades, master of all, it seems situation kind of deal.